Hello, everyone. Welcome back. There's 6 weeks until the ski season gets underway here in Revelstoke. Cold temperatures and some snow, even down at lower elevations, is on the way. In today's live stream, we're just going to be focusing purely on skiing in British Columbia. It's a Canadian province that's renowned for its dry powder skiing and large snowfalls. But in BC, where are the best skiing conditions? To talk through this and more, I've invited a fellow BC skier. He's a videographer, he's a ski tech, he's a ski and snowboard instructor. Ryan de Milliano, welcome to the channel.
Yeah, good to be here.
Thanks for coming on. How I always like to start off a few of these, especially with the new guests, is just to let you tell everyone a little bit about yourself. Where are you based? You know, what's your background within the ski industry? And then we just dive into it from there.
Sounds good. Yeah, my name is Ryan de Milliano. I'm 37 years old now. I grew up in Alberta, Canada, and played a lot of hockey growing up. Once hockey kind of ended at the tail end of my career there, I got excited to do something new, and became a snowboard instructor right away, and never really looked back. Always had a foot in the ski industry and did everything I could to get the best experiences I can skiing in Western Canada. I think most of the resorts in Western Canada now, a couple in the States, did a season in Australia, and while there was able to jump over to New Zealand for a month and catch the tail end of some of that. But now I live on Vancouver Island with my wife and family, and we're just making the best of the Comox Valley and Mount Washington and some of the local touring conditions, and just keeping that foot in the door of the ski industry and just loving the people that are in it. So that's it.
Yeah, it's I mean, I've watched quite a few of your videos, and like I can see the enthusiasm, and you've skied quite a few areas across BC, and also, like you said, just on the edge of the States there. I mean, first things first, we're getting quite close to the season now. So how are you feeling about it? You excited yet?
Yeah, I'm always pumped. The nice thing about here is like there's year-round outdoor activities. That was part of the big draw of coming out here. So like picking up those sports a little later too, like mountain biking and then a little bit of rock climbing, things like that. Fill in that void of not just looking forward to winter, but now that we're in like that kind of shoulder season of like, okay, it's kind of too wet for me to mountain bike, more of a fair weather mountain biker. I'm absolutely stoked just to get some fresh powder and get the skis on. Yeah,
shoulder season is always this sort of, I don't know, depending on how the weather is in the town at the time. It's always this sort of, it's like as soon as the summer ends, you start switching to thinking about that skiing almost immediately, especially when you get that first bit of a chill, and the town empties, the shops start, being replaced with skis instead of bikes. And it's just, just that time to count down and keep ticking off on the calendar. So I just Googled before we went live, how many ski resorts there actually are in BC. Now, Google says there's 36 resorts. And I think you said you'd done all of them. Is that right?
Well, I think that's going to count a lot of really small ones.
Still
count.
A
lot of places that they still count. Yeah. So I've done most of the major ones aside from like the northern ones. I haven't done like Powder King. It's always been on the bucket list. Like that one's pretty far north and out of the way.
Yeah.
But I've done through one of the jobs I had in my 20s. I was able to be a kind of a guide for a bus tour company that would take people from Edmonton and Calgary, where I was, to the mountains, and generally that was BC mountains. So we would do Kimberley, Panorama, Kicking Horse, Revelstoke, Silver Star, Sun Peaks sometimes, but that's getting a little too far. Even Big White. Those are kind of the cores I've done. I also had friends in Castlegar, so I was able to do kind of Red Mountain, Whitewater area too. But that core I've done quite a bit, as well as a few trips to Whistler and things like that.
Yeah. We've been talking quite a bit actually on these streams with some of the viewers quite a bit about that Castlegar area. It's certainly on my list to do hopefully this winter. Just on the topic of audience, for anyone who is watching, make sure to get your comments and questions in the live chat. We'll read them out as we go. Joe is already in there. He's saying, hey Matt, hey Ryan. He is hoping to move to BC in 2025 summertime. Joe's a regular on the channel. So Joe, have your plans have changed a bit then? Like what's have we sort of switched now from Sam Wayan? He's hoping to do his snowboarding in Mount Seymour. That's one of the Vancouver-based ones, I think. Is that right, Ryan?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the smaller ones, but nice area to come and get out of the city. So, I mean, let's start maybe with one of your, I guess, your local hills then, because you said, was it Mount Washington was your local?
Yeah, Mount Washington, I'm a content partner with them, and then they're 40 minutes from my door. So I'm up there quite a bit and do a lot of work with Mount Washington for content creation. And they're super great about helping me out for getting content for my channel as well. But
nice.
We also have Mount Cain, which is north of us. It's a very unique one. Not a lot of people know much about it. It's kind of like it's more of a volunteer run, community run ski resort. So it's got kind of like 2 T-bars, and it provides kind of a lot of access to backcountry areas. Yeah. But it's not over-established with a really big lodge and things like that. They still use a grader to kind of clear off the road to get up there and stuff like that. Yeah. But so it's a little smaller one, but Mount Washington is our main resort on the island.
Yeah. Just on Mount Cain, like I'm really glad you actually brought that one up, because I've heard of that, and the way I heard about it was like a lot of people, I guess, is like, saw a ski movie on YouTube. I can't remember from which production it was, but it was only like a little 20-minute video on that Mount Cain area and the community around it. And it did look like a really unique place to go and ski. And when the snow is right there, it just looked like an epic place to go ride.
Yeah, and haven't been there yet, actually. I just know of it. Mount Washington's, like I said, so convenient for me to get to Cairns, like an hour and a half or 2 hours north. And I'm usually riding on my own. Usually just get up there to do some filming, or I have people at Mount Washington I can ride with. But rarely make that trip out to Cairns. I've just driven by it. Yeah. But I've heard great things. I think it was Matchstick Productions that did that one.
Yeah, sounds about right. But tell us a bit about Mount Washington, because I'll admit I don't know a lot about it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't. It's there's so many amazing resorts for people traveling from Alberta and things like that, or Europe, on the way out to Mount Washington, that they kind of filter out by the time they get that far west on the coast. Mount Washington is a really well-established resort. I would call it smaller on the scale in BC, but still, I think it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lifts. I think it definitely caters to, the greens and blue riders for sure. It's got a ton of terrain for greens, blues, and easy blacks to really enjoy on the front side. And then it has this really unique outback bowl, which gets access from what's called the boomerang lift. And it's a lift that actually looks like a boomerang that goes over a peak and down into the back bowl.
Nice.
Which is called the outback. And every single run back there is double black. So it's like really unique. So some people will get caught like, oh, the top looks kind of easy. Yeah. And then every chute is just crazy steep to get down there. You really got to wind your way around to get down. So there's plenty of terrain for like everybody. The snow we get can be unbelievable. It can be really, really good, but we're on that temperature cusp of like kind of 0 to -10, I'd say, is kind of where the range is. So if it's -10, you're getting blower, amazing pow. If it's getting close to 0, then it's kind of that heavier powder, that heavier snow, which I look at as more just workout days. But yeah, the terrain is very, very good for like a local resort, but it's not going to be on the same scale as like a Whistler or a Sun Peaks or a Kicking Horse or a Revy.
Yeah.
It's definitely kind of focused for, I would say, families, but still offering incredible terrain for the advanced skier.
Yeah, but there's definitely a few of us here that definitely lean towards the smaller resorts because they've got a little bit more character, and you know, you can still find that kind of quality ski experience regardless, I guess, of what your ability is. But yeah, we were just talking actually just before we went live about that difference between that sort of soft, dry pow and, you know, and that wet, heavy stuff, which we certainly don't get much of the wet stuff here in Revy, but I guess when you're on that coast there, it can go either way.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So a lot of people, when they're planning their like ski trips, like if I was going to plan a week-long ski trip for a family and I was coming from Europe or Western or Eastern Canada or even the States or something, a lot of them will look at Mount Washington and if they know the snow, they're like, well, it can be like any resort, can be spectacular, like crazy amounts of snow, or it can be a little wet. I would say that it's not that bad in the wet. But you have to prepare. But if it is blower, it's amazing, but it's kind of a gamble if you're planning a family trip to something like that. So a lot of people will go to a place where they're confident that it'll be not wet, but you deal with other things too. If you go to Panorama or some of the interior ones, you could deal with incredible cold too, right? So, but that tends to be what family stuff will do in the Vancouver area. We'll book trips to Whistler or the interior just because they think it's going to be more consistent.
Yeah. We got a couple more comments here. So Joe was going to go to Samoyen in France, but he's not going to be able to teach until he gets his level 4 ISTD. So he's turning towards Canada because he thinks that's going to be a bit of a good fit. Got to visit there and do a ski season and hopefully move there. He's got a question for you. Ryan, what are your thoughts on Mount Seymour?
I don't have a lot of comments on Mount Seymour. I wish I did. I haven't ridden that one. It's one of the few, but yeah, I'd love to check it out. So I can't answer too much about that. But
yeah, I was speaking recently. My cousin's based in Vancouver, and he heads up to Grouse a little bit, and you know, I know that there's
Cyprus,
there's 3 different resorts. You've got Grouse, Cyprus, and Seymour, and they all kind of strike me as those resorts that are, you know, I guess for the sort of the beginner / family market from the city. And I imagine each one of them's got a little bit of a different character, maybe a different community, but I'm sure the smaller they are, actually, it's probably a fun group to be a part of.
Well, sorry to cut you off there, but with these smaller resorts, I think like one of the advantages seems like you're following here, and then the people watching tend to be a lot of people looking to get into the ski industry and start instructing. I started instructing in a place called Canada Olympic Park, which is a hill. It's a very small hill, like within the city limits of Calgary.
Yeah.
And what was cool about it is we ran through more beginners than any other resort, I think, in Western Canada, like including like Whistler and stuff like that. Because it was small, it was cheaper. We had tons of really qualified instructors and coaches there. And it was a place where people would take their families to get them ski instructing. Yeah, you don't want to spend money for all of Whistler Blackcomb's terrain.
Yeah.
If you're only going to use that small little bit, I know they offer little lift passes discounts for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's way more accessible for those places. So that's what I'm saying. Like these Seymour, Cyprus, Grouse are probably, I haven't ridden there much, but are probably one of those places where if you are coming to Canada and looking to be a ski instructor or a snowboard instructor, that's where you'll get incredible amounts of experience with all sorts of beginners, because that's where they tend to go before they hit the Whistlers and the Fernies and the.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you raise a real good point there. And it's especially when you're so close to the city, I know one of the challenges speaking to a number of instructors, especially when you're starting out, is getting those hours, getting that ability to rack those up so you can pay bills and, move up the ladder with the instructing. And yeah, if you're somewhere like a city, then I guess the demand there is pretty unlimited. Couple more questions, no comments. Ollie, who's a regular, says, "Hey Matt, I hope you're well." Ollie, thanks for joining again, buddy. Hope you're good. Joe is going to keep us updated on his snowboard instructing. On that subject, tell us a little bit about your experience from that side, because you're an instructor, right?
Yeah, I was just a level 1 CASI instructor, so Canadian Association of Snowboard Instructors.
Yeah.
Like I said, hockey kind of ended for me in college, and then I kind of needed something else to divert my energy and keep my athleticism kind of going. And yeah, I've always done snowboarding with family and stuff like that, and decided, hey, listen, probably one of the best ways to improve my own snowboarding is to learn how to teach it.
Yeah.
I saw that value from hockey, and it turned out to be very true. I got my level 1. Started coaching or teaching at Canada Olympic Park in Calgary. And like I said before, I really loved it. It was very convenient for me. I was going to college already there. I could just hop on a bus and go to the resort and hop home, and it would be really convenient and easy. And it was the best thing for me to improve my own snowboarding. I was a strong snowboarder and athlete at that time, but getting to teach and see other people's struggles and kind of walk them through and have to demonstrate those skills, even at the very beginner level, was just so helpful for me to become a better rider. And the other thing we did at Canada Olympic Park, I assume they do it in a lot of places, is morning sessions. So the snowboard instructors would all go out. So the level 1s, 2s, 3s, and level 4s would go out in different groups. And the level 4s and 3s would teach the level 1s and 2s, so that as they progressed, they would be able to know those skills and work on their own snowboarding so that they could achieve the level 2s, 3s, 4s in the future. And that was one of the best things, and something I hope every resort does, and anybody on your channel that ends up snowboard instructing or ski instructing, like, push for that at your resort, like before the hill opens. Like, I'm sure they do it, but get out for an hour before the hill opens and learn from those other people. I mostly did that in Calgary, and then it was mostly just kind of friends and stuff past that, but I did a few other jobs in the ski industry past that.
Nice. I think the equivalent from KZ, as you call it, for the UK guys would be BASI. That's our main sort of British associations of ski instructing courses. Ryan's doing his level 1 in April. He's got a question about instructing in Canada. What is the pay like?
It's been a while since I got paid to do snowboard instructing. I'd say it's not big money. If you're getting into snowboard instructing for the money, it's probably not the best. I think Europe's different. I think you can actually make a living being a ski instructor, snowboard instructor at a higher level in Europe. But in Canada, the money is not great. But a lot of the resorts are looking for more people to come over. So there are more incentives for that lifestyle experience. Yeah. And that's like subsidized housing kind of thing near the hill. A lot of resorts will be doing that. You get incredible benefits for like pro deals. Like I said, the sessions to improve your own snowboarding and the opportunity to work with people above your grade. But to answer your question, I don't think the money's crazy good. I think you can make a lot more money other places. But yeah, I'd be shooting it in the dark if I had to guess. But I know we're generally probably $15 to $20 an hour.
I think Joe's asking that mainly because one of the things we've talked about quite a bit on the last few channels is around, there are quite a few challenges right now in the ski industry when it comes to working, things like housing and just the general cost of things living in a ski town. So I kind of imagine where that's coming from. That might be where he's coming from. But what was the thing you found the most challenging when you were doing the instructing?
Yeah, the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was working in a restaurant as I was a line cook and then a bartender for a little bit.
Yeah.
And the money was a lot better there. It was closer to where I was. Um, the hours were later. You were working in the night, and during college, that was kind of my choice to step away from it. But there was a lot of jobs I could have done that would have made more money.
Yeah.
So that was the hardest thing. Was like, I'm not making money, and the bank account was real low all the time as a student. So you're like,
Yeah.
But I knew that this was like part of the path in my life I wanted to take. So I knew I had like a 5-year plan in my head where I'm going to graduate, work construction management, which I did, but also have, like I said, my foot in the door. So I knew this was a great stepping stone to keep my foot in the door of that industry and just try and make something of it eventually. But that was the hardest thing, was just not making the money, but everything else I loved about it.
Yeah. So I mean, Joe right now he's doing childcare, sports teaching in the summer, and then winter snowboard instructing. So I think obviously starting out, I imagine it's quite common for people to pick up maybe a little job on the side, whether it's, a bar job or something else, just to keep the money coming in. Because like we say, like getting hours, depending on where you are teaching, can be a bit of a challenge. But I guess on your sort of 5-year plan, how did the videography start? I'm curious to know.
Yeah. I'm older now, so I remember back when GoPros were just getting in.
Yeah.
So my first GoPro camera, was a GoPro Hero HD.
Yeah.
Which was like the very first one that was like 1080p. So I think it was like the second or third, barely generation into it. And I was just so stoked on it. I absolutely loved it. And at that time I was, doing ski instructing or snowboard instructing and going to these places, and it was a way to capture that, and I was just absolutely stoked on it. Then one day I got to do my first cat ski trip.
Nice.
And I was pumped. It was in Fernie Island Lake Lodge, and still one of the best cat ski trips I've ever done. But I wanted to capture it. I didn't know how many of these I'd get in my life, and I was like, it seemed like such a cool opportunity. And so I took the camera out, took the GoPro out, and filmed it all, and everyone was so stoked, and just like seeing that fire in people where they're just like, man, you captured it. That's great. Like, we can look back on this and use it for next year and get people amped to come out. And I kind of lit the fire under me to keep making those. And then eventually somebody asked me if I would do their wedding. And I said, absolutely not. I use a GoPro. Like, that's a big difference. And they're like, oh no, we have low expectations. I was like, wow, have no expectations. Like, expect I'll forget the SD cards. But that got me to buy a DSLR. Did that wedding. It was a lot of work, but enjoyed it, and video came out pretty good for what I had. And then that kind of led into more weddings, and then a couple commercial projects, and I kind of kept that as a side hustle for a long time, continuing to try and capture GoPro videos and then weddings, and then that's kind of snowballed from there.
Great pun.
Yeah.
So you started off, you were out there in Alberta. What brought you over to BC then? How did you start skiing those areas?
The big thing for me was, so I did the snowboard instructing in Calgary. Yeah. And then after college, I ended up reaching out to an Australian friend, or an Australian friend reached out to me and was wondering if I was still teaching snowboarding and still wanted to be in the industry. And I was like, yeah, of course, I'm pumped on it. And he said, do you want to come work in Australia, like, for skiing, in the ski industry? And I was like, water skiing? Like, what are you talking about? Like, there can't be any skiing. I had no idea there was actually skiing there. And I had visited there before. And I was like, no, there's no actual skiing. Like, it'd be terrible. And he's like, no, we got actual resorts. Like, Jindabyne's a really cool place. That's where you'd be working. And then you can go to Perisher and Threadbow. So that brought me there for a whole season. And being there and seeing, the stoke on people that were getting in the mountains and seeing snow for the first time, seeing a different side of the industry where I was able to see buses of people come from Sydney and Melbourne and Brisbane and stuff like that to the mountain, and giving them the opportunity to get out there made me realize there was another level to the ski industry that I could dive into. So after that, came back, had a great season, visited New Zealand, came back, and just wanted to keep it going. So I knew I was going to do construction management again, which I did, and really enjoyed that job. But I knew I wanted to keep that foot in the door of the ski industry. So I found a place that did bus tours from Alberta to BC. So taking university students or corporate trips. And so I approached them, made a video resume for them. So threw some content at them, and they were like, "Oh yeah, this is the type of person we want." And I was really excited and nervous because I'm generally more of an introvert. So being in front of 55 people at the front of a bus wasn't really exciting for me. But I knew, again, for that progression in my life, I wanted to be able to do that. So I did that, and then that took me to weekend trips to all over BC, and that was absolutely amazing. Did that for like 10 years. At the beginning doing a lot more, but I got to experience a lot of BC resorts. My wife grew up in a ski town, Canmore, Alberta, and when we were dating, it was like, yeah, one day we got to get out there. We got to get to the mountains. We want to raise our kids there, things like that. Yep. So yeah, eventually we got to a place in our career. She was done school as a physiotherapist, and I was actually working up north in camps. So I really needed just access to an airport.
Yeah.
And so we decided to move to BC in 2019, and we ended up deciding Vancouver Island was the place to be. So came out here in 2019, 2020 hit, which was crazy for everybody. And I ended up leaving the camp work. I wasn't going up north anymore, and decided to spend that year at home with the family, focusing with our daughter that was just born, and trying to make the videography thing work. So pushing that.
Yeah. So there's a couple of questions actually on that about your videography. So first of all, Joe wants to know, Ryan, do you have a channel?
I do. It's just my name. I think it'll be probably linked down below.
Yeah, it will definitely be in the description as we go, for sure. Definitely anyone who is watching, make sure to go over and check out some of his videos because they are awesome. And yeah, I've watched a few already just to help me get excited for the season. Oliver wants to know, how did you start making videos, and was it hard knowing where to start from?
Yeah, of course it's tricky, and if you have that in your mind, it's going to be hard no matter what. But no, nowadays it's so easy to get into it. The cameras are so good. Like I said, I had one of the first GoPros, and I was stoked on that. But nowadays, if you just get a GoPro, and like any GoPro, even like a Hero 7 or 8, some used one, like a couple $100, they're such amazing cameras. Biggest thing is just to get into it. Yeah, if you're pumped and you want to share your stuff, get on it. You don't have to share, but it's easy. It's easy nowadays compared to what it was. There's so many resources, and the cameras are so good, right? You can go on YouTube and learn how to use a GoPro camera. I got a few tutorials on my channel, but there's so many good ones for how to capture and storyboard and get ideas, stuff like this. This channel here is great. Your channel as well.
No, thanks. It's I mean, it's I don't know how you find it. I think it's a continuous learning process. And like there's so much out there, and I don't think it's ever something which you will ever like fully master, because there's always like new trends and new styles and plus there's things like the algorithm. But in terms of like the core of the filmmaking, it's just like, yeah, you got to get out there and just do it. And especially I think when you're starting out, try not to worry too much about, you know, what the product is, but just start filming, start plugging away, and then each bit you get a little bit better.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Don't get overwhelmed. I think the biggest problem somebody like Oliver is probably leaning towards is that I struggled at the beginning especially with weddings and GoPro stuff, is I would go to the hill and I would try to film everything.
Yeah.
I would have multiple batteries. I would think that every run I had to capture everything just in case something amazing happened. And I think that was a mistake I made and had to learn from. What I would advise people like Oliver there is just, you have to enjoy what you're filming in order to film it well. So having a plan for a day, like when I go out to film a day, it's like I only use the GoPro for a fraction of the time. Like it seems like you would film every run, but it's like you can bring it with you, but just like plan for an hour of filming.
Yeah.
That way you're not overwhelmed when you get to the computer and you have 100 gigabytes of video. Just start off small, film a couple runs that maybe your legs are feeling good. Film a couple runs, and that's your GoPro for the day.
Yeah. How much does editing, do you think, play into the end product? Because that's still, for me, that's still a big gap in my knowledge. Like I just use iMovie, and I wonder how much that really does play into, I guess, the end product.
Yeah, like I said, I was trying to mention before, just keep it simple is the biggest thing. iMovie's great. iMovie's awesome. For everything you need to do, iMovie's perfect. I use Final Cut Pro, but the features I use in Final Cut Pro are not much more than what iMovie offers.
Yeah.
The transitions are still awkward if you use their like templates and stuff, and their whole template sections are kind of awkward. Yeah. Whenever I use any titles, I'm just customizing a simple one. But the biggest thing, if you're intimidated by the editing, is keep it simple. Use iMovie, right?
Yeah.
The best thing to do is get content made. So like you'll know when you need to go to the next editing software, or you'll know when you need to get the new camera. You don't have to think like, oh, I need that camera to edit something. It's like just use what you have and get out there. But keep it simple. Yeah.
There's a couple more comments. So Joe is also he's going to be starting a channel this winter. If he moves to Canada, he says, Matt, we could potentially collab. Up to you, of course, but would be awesome to work with you. Joe, I think I've said to you before, buddy, like I'm always up for it. So when you do eventually get here, if I'm still here, hopefully, then we'll try and make something work. He has subscribed to your channel, Ryan. So that's one there. Oliver saying thanks there about the video talk, really interesting. And he's subscribed to you too. So that's two new subscribers, Ryan.
That's it. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah. And Joe trying to start his channel for this winter. I'm gonna put you on the spot now. What's your favorite BC resort and why?
Favorite BC resort. There's so many. Whatever has the best snow. In all honesty, Kicking Horse Mountain Resort is my absolute favorite. Yeah, it's an absolute gem. I'm trying to work with them this year. I reached out to their media department to see if they'd be keen to collaborate on something, because I just want to highlight that resort as best I can. I've had such incredible experiences. Doesn't mean they're always amazingly perfect conditions or anything, but it's the kind of resort where it's kind of under the radar. It's got unbelievable steep sections, and you get to the top of that gondola and it's got the best view I've ever seen in any mountain around the world. So Kicking Horse is one of my favorites for sure, if I could name one.
Yeah, I did a day there last year, and it was like pristine bluebird after they'd had some powder a few days before, but it was like negative 25. It was so cold, because you do get that extra bit of chill on that side. But just stunning mountain, and like a lot of those BC resorts, not as many lifts, but the sheer amount of terrain you can reach is just enormous.
Yeah, and it's specific for it's known for its steep and gnarly terrain. So it's not a place I would take like a green, blue kind of family.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very advanced place where there's some really, really challenging runs. But if it's right for you, it's perfect. But
Yeah. The thing that I really liked about it, I mean, I visited there when I was a kid a lot longer, and I was really stoked to see it was still there when I went back. Was the stairway to heaven lift, and then the little brolly bar like at the bottom there. Like that's a very European theme, that where you have like one of these umbrella bars on the mountain. You know, like I think in Canada they call them yurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
So,
one right at the base there.
yeah, good place to grab a beer after a couple of runs.
Yeah, and they I've been there a couple times. It was always one of the places. I worked for a bus company, and like they would give the more senior guides like a list of the places, and they could choose a number of them to go to. And I was just like kicking horse.
Yeah.
And I was able to be there during I forget the exact name, the free ride, the free ride tour.
Yeah.
So they run that there, and there's at that yurt or whatever they call it at the base of Stairway to Heaven. You can sit there with a beer and watch the whole like run they're coming down, which was I forget the name of the run, but it was down from the top of the gondola there on one of the chutes, and it was absolutely insane. You could see guys coming down, throwing a backflip, and then another one coming down switch for the entire run that I could never even dream of riding.
It's ridiculous watching those guys do it. Like I think we have one of the qualifier legs here in Revy, which I think is a couple of weeks before the main event in Kicking Horse. And yeah, it's they tend to kind of do it in North Bowl and Greeley Bowl, and you can sit at the top of the Ripper chair, and everyone sits on the ledge there and watches these guys and girls just throw off stuff. And yeah, it's just another level to anything else. On the subject of athletes, Joe's asking you, what's your favorite Canadian winter Olympian or athlete and Paralympian? Do you have one?
Olympian, probably. Man, I just have such a good experience of watching this, but it was Cassie Sharp.
Yeah.
She's actually a local here in Comox Valley. But I remember my wife and I were in Japan, in Tokyo, watching the Olympics, and we saw her win gold in half pipe skiing there, and that was kind of special. It was like, oh man, go Canada kind of thing. And yeah, we were just on a ski trip already, so I have kind of good nostalgia for that one, and that kind of really meant a lot. Was Cassie Sharp. Paralympian. Yeah, I don't know too much about that.
Yeah, it's there's a few athletes around Revelstoke, but they're sort of quite incognito. Like you have to sort of be real on the lookout. But there's a few who base themselves around here. But growing up as a kid, for me, like I mean, to an extent, I still am. But I was really into racing. Like I used to love watching the ski racing, and I just remember that the Canadian team at that time were like so strong for a few years, and I forget all the names, but I know it was like Eric Guy or Eric Gay was one of them, and there was a few others, and there was a few years there where Canadian ski racing was just on top of the world.
Yeah, there was it's fun to watch that. I always liked the Olympics. I remember Jennifer Heil was a mogul skier for Canada, and I was so disappointed. I was in closet, but I was in Marmot Basin when they named a run after her.
Okay.
And I was really excited because there's like a big group. You got to see her, the Olympian. She was up there, like, going to get this unveiling of a run. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. I love like seeing this stuff. And I figured they'd have a really unique name for it and stuff, like the Heil Shoots or like something really cool. And it was just like, I was so disappointed. They unveiled it, and you can see it on her face too. But it said like Jen's Run.
That's it.
It was the name of run. I was like, just Jen's Run. I was like, it could be any Jen. She's probably so disappointed.
Yeah. Jen who? You got to specify.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like, oh, guys.
Yeah.
Ski runs are supposed to be fun names, right?
Yeah. Joe's a Seb Toots fan. I'm not sure who that is, but
snowboarder. Yeah, me
snowboarder?
too, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He did slope style, big air. He's great.
On ski runs, they've removed the Lake Louise leg of the race tour this year.
Okay.
Yeah, it was quite a big thing, because I know that was a real significant part of the racing for quite a few years. But I read somewhere that they just couldn't get the funding to run it at Lake Louise anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So which is
that's disappointing. I've seen it there at Lake Louise. I've been there for it a few times. What do you think of? You might not follow it as much as I do, but it's kind of interesting to see what Europe follows versus what we follow. But Travis Rice has like the Supernatural. Have you seen any of those?
Yeah, well, the Supernatural took place in the events took place in just outside of Revelstoke last winter.
Right.
I don't know, like I don't follow snowboard athletes that much, but the event itself was pretty big in Revelstoke last year. They had a lot of areas where they were showing it in town. It was on the mountain, and I know that they teamed up with the resorts with Selkirk Tangiers heli skiing, so they did a lot of the sort of picking the athletes up, dropping them up at the top of the runs. And yeah, I saw a lot of the clips from those runs, and it was just ridiculous. Like some of the stuff he was throwing, I don't know, it just looked unskiable, but he managed to find a way.
Yeah. I think those are the kind of events that I'm really keen for, and I think we'll just keep growing because they're incredible opportunities for highlighting the progress in videography we've got with like the follow drones now.
They're insane.
Yeah, they're so good now, and then they can capture such a unique video game style look to it. In mountain biking, like I follow the UCI Downhill World Cup, and have these drones following them. It's really, really cool. Still infancy, like there's still some issues like with latency and stuff, but generally it's going to be really, really good. And then,
I was wondering with those, are they being piloted, do you think, or is there like something with the athletes where it follows them?
It's piloted for sure.
Yeah,
it's piloted a lot of the times. It's funny, I think they took a lot of the guys that were, because there was a real niche for them. You had to like build them yourself and solder all the boards together and everything to make them, and then they would race them through like obstacle courses.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like this underground kind of niche thing. And I think Red Bull saw that, and they saw the progression and a lot of those companies, and now they're finding the best ones of those obstacle course operators to follow the athletes down. But it's cool. I love that progression in technology and the videography side. And then, it's Supernatural to me is like a live snowboard movie. So like watching Art of Flight live, because I just love it. It's really cool.
Yeah, no, it's good. The fact that the events were quite close to Revelstoke, like we like it was a big deal. Like in the office where I work, like all the girls there who were involved in the marketing, they were just like nonstop saying, how big the event was. And, I know they've done there's so much content that came out of it as well. And, still getting shown now, like the Travis Rice runs in particular from that event, just like they keep coming, like I'll go scrolling through, just YouTube shorts or whatever. And it, gets chucked at me still all the time. And, but on gear, like what's your setup right now then? So what's the stuff you use when you're making your videos?
For camera gear or ski and snowboard gear?
Oh, well, I guess a bit of both, to be honest. Like there's quite a few of us here that like the gear, and I guess if we've got skiers and future content creators, it's probably handy to know both.
Yeah, okay, I'll give a brief rundown of all of it. For camera gear, I do my very best to keep it simple.
Yeah.
The less I can take on with me, the less I have to worry about, the simpler it is to just grab a camera and start rolling. And the less complicated it is. So if I'm just doing like a YouTube video, I keep it very simple.
Yeah.
And the action cameras I use, my favorite one, absolutely bar none, for the last like 4 years has been the GoPro Max.
Yeah.
it's a 360 camera that you're able to kind of frame exactly how you want, and you can get way better perspectives, and you don't have to worry about the angle of the camera. And the battery's longer. It's just a way better camera. Even then, it's an old camera, and it's still, I'd take it any day over the Hero 12 Black or whatever it is now. So that's been my go-to. I also, through a friend of mine, was able to get a Insta 360 V3, which is the Insta 360 one. I've been using that mountain biking, but I'm looking forward to trying that skiing as well. But just holding them, I still think the GoPro Max is my go-to. I was smaller.
I wanted to ask you actually about those and how you feel they compare, because I've been sort of mulling over maybe investing in a 360 camera. I've seen like, I've held the 360 in the Insta 360 and see how it looks, but I've never sort of tried it or don't even know how the GoPro Max compares.
Yeah, I've still been waiting for a Max V2, but even the V1, I'm still super pumped with it. The difference is I'm going to try doing a video comparison between them soon here. But the V3 is obviously a newer camera. It's going to have a bigger sensor, but that also means bigger files. I find they come in huge, and the editing software is not quite as seamless as the GoPro. And that might just be because I'm used to the GoPro. But I really like the GoPro for its compact size. It's easy to kind of put into a pocket, where the Insta 360 is kind of a long dongle. It's like the length of your phone if you got an iPhone or something. And it's pretty heavy. So if you just have it on a mount, it's pretty heavy. So I like the GoPro Max that way. And I'll do an instructional video on how to edit that stuff. That's something on my list of videos to do this winter. But if you do have a Max and are looking to know my workflow for editing, or what I think is the best workflow for editing those, I did a video with a professional mountain biker out here where I edited his GoPro Max footage. So I walk you through really quickly my steps through that. But yeah, I'd highly recommend the 360. It's so nice.
You make a good point about the Insta 360 being like, stuck up there. And I've seen people ride with them, and I do think that, like, is that thing going to be durable? Like, if you hit something and you get front flip, that thing's going to, like, just completely go off, and there's more of a risk of snapping or breaking, something like that. Whereas, if the Max is almost still like your regular GoPros, where it's just fixed on your head or on a mount.
Yeah, I mean, they're all pretty durable for cameras. They're all going to break if the lens smashes a rock, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, on that note, the GoPro Max is going to be cheaper than the Insta 360 V3, I believe. Could be wrong. It's an older camera. I'd be surprised if it was more expensive. Yeah, no, if you're worrying about that, then get a cheaper GoPro. Like, if you're falling enough that you're worried about that, what I do is I only pull it out. I have like a little sock for it that I put it in, and I only pull it out when I'm filming. I don't like to be the guy that has a GoPro on his head the whole day. One, the battery drains so much faster when it's out in the cold. And the other is I don't want to draw that attention to myself or be one of those guys that always have the red light blinking, like I said earlier in the video, like being somebody that feels like they have to record everything. I'd rather just put it on when I need to.
We got a couple of other comments here. Joe says, Matt, it's been 2 years since I first watched your videos. Blimey, dude, 2 years watching. Yeah, thanks, Joe. Gosh, that's there's a few have been here for that amount of time, and appreciate you sticking by it. Yeah, excited to get filming this winter. It's not long to go now. Joe also says, Ryan, when you were an instructor, did you find you got any tips?
I assume on my own snowboarding, maybe. It kind of brings me back to, it was the best decision of my life to improve my snowboarding. To learn how to teach was absolutely incredible. So you could give yourself so many tips.
Yeah.
But the other biggest thing was those sessions, like where you got to go out with a level 4 park coach or a level 4 carving instructor.
Yeah. I think what he's referring to, sorry, is like money tips. Like, did you get tips from the people?
Oh, tips for money.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes. One of the things at COP that actually made it financially better, I don't know how many resorts do this or if they do it anymore, but because you get big groups, and if you were able to do a really good job with that group, and one of them decided they wanted to do a private session with you, and they requested you specifically, you would get a significant bonus every time you got to teach that person as a request for you specifically. So I thought that was a great idea for COP to put in place, because it motivated you to be a better instructor for the group, so you could get returning customers. And they're obviously getting more money from a private session. So they shared a chunk of that with me, which was amazing. I think it was like close to 50% of what they paid for a session you would get. So that was kind of a tip that way. And then, if you're good at what you do and you're providing a service in Canada, tips are pretty common for better or for worse. So you go to anywhere in Canada, everybody's asking for tips. It gets kind of annoying when you're doing something where you're like, I'm just buying a bag of chips. Why do I need to give you a tip? And you feel
it's like going into the liquor store. Oh, would you like to leave a tip? But so that's it's something to be aware of.
For snowboard instructing, I would get some tips. It was pretty rare. But if you're good at what you do and you get those kind of private lessons where you can get them back and get them stoked, then sometimes you get tips. But
I think there's definitely an incentive as well if like you can bring like groups like to book in, or you can, so like whilst you might be affiliated with an instructing company, but if you can bring your own customers in, that type of thing, then there's definitely some incentive there. Back onto BC skiing, some of your like best videos that I've seen that have done really well are your ones of Revelstoke. What do you make of Revel?
I think it's got a lot of hype, well-deserved hype. Like you said, there's professional backcountry skiing competitions there. It does have the highest vertical descent in Canada above Whistler, so that brings some attention to it. And it blew up for a little while. It was a new, exciting resort, and it attracted a lot of professional skiers. And that just means when people see the skiing at Revelstoke online, they tend to see big powder days with really great skiers, great POV footage through trees. They're not seeing like the green and blue runs of like families so much. So I think there's a lot of hype with Revi, and I think they've done a good job of branding that. I think that's just it. People search, I've heard a lot about Revi, and then they type in skiing at Revi, and my video might pop up in the top 10 or 100 videos. But when I made that video, it was like 4 or 5 years ago, so there was less Revelstoke content. Now there's so much that it doesn't get as much traffic.
It's quite a flooded like content now. Like there's definitely a lot of it out there, whether it's professionally done or just people coming for a ski trip. But I mean, I know the resort's definitely doing a little bit more to kind of entice some of those more families, because if there's people doing these ski safaris type trips. But it was coming from Europe. It was a big shock. Like I'd never experienced anything like that. We certainly don't get anywhere near as much snow as British Columbia does. So that took a little while to get used to. And then again, the sort of lift access to terrain ratio is so different. Like in Europe, we just have these, and a lot of these big areas, it's just constant, like multiple efficient lift systems. I imagine it's a little bit like that in in places like Whistler and maybe some peaks, but you know, a lot of these other smaller style resorts like Revi, like your Kicking Horse, it's 3-4 lifts, but just takes you to a world of paradise.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people would be surprised when they go to Revi that it's the way it's hiked up. It seems like it's close to a Whistler or Sun Peak size because it's got the highest vertical. But yeah, it's got a lot of room to grow because you go there. I think they might have, you know better than I would, but they have the gondola, and then they have Stoke and Ripper.
Yep.
That's like the two main chairs. I think they might have added another one. Is that
yeah
right?
Yeah, they've got the Stella chair, which is a designated beginner area. So for anyone who is maybe like a beginner or has never really done Revelstoke before, there's a sort of an area that doesn't intersect with any of the main runs, and you can just keep lapping that small chairlift and sort of get a little bit familiar with it. And they actually just moved the magic carpet from the base of the resort to that area for this winter. So if you've got any kids, they'll be learning basically right next to the top of the Gondi. So good for parents to swing around and grab their kids at lunch. Ollie says, yeah, that private bonus system sounds like such a good idea. Should be one of those things that is more standard, but I don't know if it is.
Yeah, I don't know if it is. I think it's the best way to incentivize your instructors to do the best job. I agree completely. It was one of those big reliefs because, like I said, you get paid $15 an hour or whatever. That's not enough to live on. But if you can be very good at your job and get better and find those private things, I think it's a win-win for the resort and for the employee. And you don't. It was great. I loved it because I did everything I could to be the best instructor I could while there.
Yeah. So, but you don't. So you don't instruct anymore, though. Is that right?
No. Like I said, I've done a lot of friends and family and things like that. I always have to give tips on the mount and things like that. But really, I'm just instructing myself is how I look at it. Yeah. I'm always trying to improve. Every time I get the opportunity to go up the chairlift, I'm watching. It's amazing when you get that instructor mindset. And again, I bring it back to one of the best things I've done in my life is for snowboarding and skiing is being able to understand the technique and the mechanics of snowboarding. So if I go up the lift, I'm looking at people, I'm saying, oh, okay, like this is what they're doing right or wrong. Or man, that guy looks like he's way smoother than I am. Like, what is he doing that I can replicate? So I'm constantly teaching myself. And on those bad days where it's like heavy, it's raining or it's icy or whatever, I always look at those as opportunities to just get better myself. And those are where I'll do my own drills. And there's some great instructors on YouTube. I'm trying to remember. I think there's I'm trying to remember one of the names there.
Jonathan Buckhouse, I think, is kind of like one of the main ones.
Yeah, he's good. The best one I found from like an instructor point of view, Jonathan Buckhouse I've watched some of his content. It's really good. He's a fun guy to watch. He's a good snowboarder. He's got good tips and everything, but I can tell that he probably hasn't instructed as much as some of the other people that I've watched. I'm trying to remember the one guy's name. Malcolmore? I forget his name. I gotta find it here. I'll find it. I'll give it to you. You can leave it in the notes.
Sure.
It'll be down below. But he's a really, really great instructor, so I can learn things from him that I didn't know before. So
yeah. Joe says I should do a house tour or a room tour. I'll be honest with you, Joe. I'm not going to do that just because this isn't my house. So yeah, obviously this is landlords and just kind of got to respect an element of privacy. Also not really a lot to show in terms of my room. It's like a lot of people trying to rent in Revi, you know, it's a basement suite and just trying to, you try to spend as little time as there as possible and get out and enjoy the outdoors.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep focused on snowboarding.
yeah, for sure. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, because you are on that west coast there, so you are relatively close to Whistler. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Whistler's Disneyland, and
Yeah.
that comes with a cost. it's it's just too expensive for me and my family to consider it, really, when we have access to a very great resort here. If I did go to the mainland, I'd rather, if I'm hopping on the ferry, I'd rather just drive a few more hours and get to Revelstoke or Kicking Horse or Sun Peaks. I've been there. It's a lot. It's very exciting. Lots of people, lots of skiers of every level. Lots of people that aren't skiing. It's a very busy place, and my introverted mind definitely just prefers places like Revelstoke and quieter places. Yeah,
I'm with you there. Like, it's I'm sure it's nice for maybe one trip, one weekend, but just so many people. Joe says, Joe says thanks for asking all of his questions. He's got to head off there.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thanks again for joining, Joe. Always a regular on the live streams. I'm with you there. Like, it's just, I don't know. I kind of, also, when you work in the industry for quite a long time, you know when are the good days to not ski or avoid skiing, especially like that weekend. And I imagine that's one of the things that Whistler has a lot, is that weekend lot where everyone drives up from the city and then the place just gets packed.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't say a bad thing about Whistler. I've gone there for mountain biking and skiing, and it's always in my top 3 of like places I've been. The experience is always really great. But in my mind now, like I said, I'm 37. I've been fortunate to be able to ski so many places in BC. That when I go to a resort, like, my focus is, is it a nice, simple place with everything I need and great skiing? Like, that's my focus is great skiing. I don't want to be dragged away from it with all the other distractions of Whistler and its busyness sometimes. But I will definitely make my way back there. Midweek, probably.
Do you have, so what are your plans then for this winter? Have you got any trips lined up?
I do have I have a good relationship with Caribou Snowcats up in Valemont.
Nice.
So I did all the video and photos for their new website they put up. So I got a really good relationship with the owner there and some of the guides. And then some of the people I used to guide with for those bus tours organized a cat ski trip up there that I'll end up joining in probably February. So that'll be the big trip. And ideally, if I can, I'll stop at some resorts on the way back and get some content and experience there. But really, it's just a one trip that I'm planning this year. And the rest of it, I want to do a lot more work with Mount Washington and Island Alpine guides and Mount Cain. Stick around local. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to that Mount Cain one for sure. Like, that's definitely after seeing that Matchsticks video. It's I don't think there's actually much content on that resort out there. So when that one video did come out, like, I think it piqued quite a lot of curiosity.
Yeah, it's always the joke with Mount Cain is like, the snow's no good here. Like, don't come. They kind of like it local. They like it being a smaller resort. It's kind of one of the last few niche kind of resorts like that. So they got 2 T-bars. It's nothing crazy, but it's a gem, I think.
I heard that it's not very good at Mount Washington or Revelstoke either. Like, people shouldn't go.
Don't come.
No, don't come. Ollie saying, really interesting chat. Got to dash off now, but thanks very much and enjoy the rest of your day / evening. Thanks, Ollie. This is probably about the time quite a few of the UK guys switch off because it's getting kind of late there. But thanks very much for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. I mean, I really appreciate you jumping on today, Ryan, and just spending a bit of time to talk about your experiences skiing and your sort of journey into the industry.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. It's always good to talk to somebody that's also stoked, and yeah.
It doesn't. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that it is only 6 weeks to go. Like it's cold, right? It's a bit chilly now, but it's still like pretty autumnal, and like we had a little bit of snow earlier in the week. Like I think I sent you that picture of the webcam where we had about 10-15 centimeters that rained away.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm hoping we get some falls in the next couple of weeks or so to start building up that base. When does Mount Washington kick off? Have they got dates confirmed?
Usually it's kind of December 8th.
Yeah.
So they usually start then. Totally depends on the snow and what's open, but they have snow making down at the bottom. So as long as it's cold enough, they can open up pretty significant part of the mountain.
Yeah.
And then they can, the backside, the boomerang doesn't usually open till kind of mid-January. And the reason isn't usually snow. Like we've had years where we get a lot of snow. But the reason they open a little later is because there's actually like they log back there and I asked one of the ski patrol. Yeah. And there's a lot of stumps that are quite high. So it takes a lot of snow to cover them enough. So they kind of do wait for that.
Bit of it's a similar thing with the powder, less so with the powder bowls, but definitely with the particular run, Kill the Banker at Revelstoke. Like unless we get like a ton of snow in December, that thing won't open up until mid-Jan. Yeah. Have you ridden that run? No,
I never have. It's always been either tracked outs or not open, like you said, usually.
I mean, the top bit does look quite gnarly. There's another way where you can enter into it by heading as if you were going to head down to the Stoke Chair. And I think the entrance it's Conifers of Narnia or something. And if you head down through that, then you can traverse across and miss out some of the slightly gnarly sections. But then on its day, it's a pretty sweet run to do.
Yeah.
So,
no, that would be. It looks awesome. It looks like a lot of fun, but usually, when the snow is good enough, that Kill the Banker?
Yeah.
When the snow's good enough for there, it's like there's so many other places I know, and I fall into that trap where like I go to resort for biking or skiing, and it's like I have a few runs in my mind that I know can be great when the snow's good, and I just go there. So if I was a local, I might spend some time exploring a little more, but when I get the chance to go there, I kind of know my 4 or 5 spots, and that's usually a whole day.
When you're a local in Revelstoke, you kind of know how many runs you can maybe squeeze in before they drop the barrier on Separate Reality and North Bowl. So if you're quick about it, and especially with fresh snow, like if you can get a couple of laps in the I think it's Still Life Glades and a couple of those runs, then lap the Stoke Chair, and then as soon as that barrier drops around maybe 10 o'clock, you get the first tracks into those powder bowls there, and it's just it's an epic feeling to do that.
Yeah, that's good. So how's your experience been in Revy there? What drew you to Revy?
So I think I first heard a little bit about Revy through an old Solomon ski video. It was actually focused on, I think, some heli skiing up at Micah's Heli Lodge. So kind of within the area. And I think just the word the town Revelstoke got name dropped in it, and that was in the back of my mind. And then when I was like looking for where to go, I knew that I sort of wanted to, from a job perspective, I wanted to again kind of focus on the experience side of things in the high end. And so my first job coming into Revelstoke was at a heli ski lodge near the mountain. And so that was my first job straight in. And I'd heard about all the snow and the powder, before coming to here, I was in Niseko in Japan. So they'd said that, you know, that if there's anywhere else, it's going to be in Canada and BC.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and, you know, I've been here a little over 2 years now and haven't looked back. And I don't really, you know, if the immigration situation allows, I don't really see myself, you know, moving anywhere else, because, you know, Revelstoke has a lot of things going for it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was on our list of places we might want to be. But.
Yeah, but as I'm sure you probably know from a lot of ski towns, you know, it's a challenging with affordability and just trying to live and everything. But yeah, I'm lucky at the moment with where I am, and yeah, enjoying it a lot.
Good. Pump for it. Yeah, no, that's great. I got friends there too, and they love it. So
yeah,
it's a good place to be. That's great.
Listen, Ryan, we're going to have to wrap it up here, but again, I just want to say, like, thanks so much for coming on. If anyone was to find you online, like, where do they need to go?
My YouTube channel is just under my name there, Ryan de Milliano, and there's links to some of my other socials from there. That's probably the best way to follow along and ask for some specific videos in the comments if you're ever keen. I'm always looking for ideas, so that's it.
Yeah. Well, again, really appreciate it. And listen, if you ever come out to Revelstoke, let me know, and we'll go for a day of shredding the mountain.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That'd be awesome.
Thanks, Ryan, and take care and good luck for the season.
Okay. Thank you so much, man. It was really great talking.
Cheers. And thanks everyone for watching for today. Really appreciate all the engagement again on the live streams. Please do like the video, leave some comments as well. If you're watching after it's gone live, I'll get back to them as usual. The vlogs will be returning in the next couple of weeks. It's been nice kind of having a little bit of a time off doing those, but there's some stuff in the works. Like I say, like, not long to go now to the winter. So thanks very much, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.